This FedGov Today program is sponsored by Maximus. On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, the AI obligation for the nation to take seriously.
I believe that we have not only an opportunity but a responsibility to advance the human in the loop, to advance the human values that we see as the common denominators.
Former Foreign Service Officer Don Kilburg on FedGov Today in just a moment. Uniting program strategy, advanced technology, process, and execution for a more efficient government. That's Maximus. Every program, every service, every time. That's innovation forward. Learn more at maximus.com/federal. The State Department's e-records archive contains more than 4 billion artifacts. Managing and curating those artifacts is one of the ways state will use artificial intelligence. Don Kilburg is a retired Foreign Service Officer at State Department. His new book is AI Use Cases for Diplomats, coming out later this month. Don, welcome. Thanks for joining me. What is the takeaway that you want folks in the diplomatic community to get from the book that you've released? Thanks for joining me, Don. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Francis. Really appreciate the opportunity. Really, what I wanted to accomplish with this book is to provide, first and foremost, diplomats, but also more broadly members of the foreign affairs community and students, or anybody interested. I wanted to provide them with sort of a framework and kind of a larger level conceptual understanding of the relationship between applied artificial intelligence and diplomacy, and some of the things that we can do with these new tools to more effectively and more creatively and more humanely carry out the work of diplomacy.
It's obvious that you've done a lot of study and a lot of thought about artificial intelligence and its implications for society as a whole and for governance more specifically. What's different in those broader areas, if anything, about what you see for the future of artificial intelligence as opposed to narrowly focusing it on the diplomatic community, Don?
Well, so I became very interested in artificial intelligence, like a lot of people, when ChatGPT came out a couple of years ago. And I played around with it, and I thought to myself, wow, okay, this is interesting. This is a game changer. And then it kind of broadened out from there. And I've been doing a lot of reading of some of the big thinkers on this. You know, Henry Kissinger and Eric Schmidt have a couple of good books out. Lots of different thinkers in the AI space. And what I noticed was nobody had really written about, okay, how do we bring this to bear on diplomacy? I was already doing it in the workplace, as were a lot of colleagues at the U.S. State Department, over the past several years. But my sense was that we were kind of nibbling on the edges. Okay, we were using ChatGPT first, to write, say, to help us draft a press release, to help us draft talking points or draft a speech for the ambassador, or to help us brainstorm, some policy items. But we were kind of nibbling on the edges. And then, of course, some new tools started to come out within State Department's network, some really great tools, some really great work by the Center for Analytics in particular over at State Department, including for media analysis, and, mostly to help, at least in my lane, it was to help public affairs officers to understand our audiences better so that we could connect with them better. But since then, it's been kind of an explosion in use of applied artificial intelligence at the State Department. And what I noticed was where I saw a gap was as people were looking to use these tools in their work. What the gap was sort of at the broad 30,000 foot vantage point. To understand, hey, this is not just a tool for wordsmithing. This is a tool that could be used more broadly across, political sections, economic sections, public affairs sections, consular affairs, management of the embassy, and then, of course, ultimately for the executive office for an ambassador, to assist with strategic decision making. And then from there, I just, I was like a kid in a candy store, excited about the possibilities, in kind of shifting the mindset, if you will, to help enter kind of the age of AI, as it's being called. And then I started to think, well, diplomats diplomats really could play a key role here because diplomats have the experience, the talent, the skill set for bridging gaps. And it kind of spiraled out of control from there. And I thought, I should write a book about this because I don't see that anyone else has done that. And so that's kind of my broad goal with the book, is to give people the kind of mindset that they might need.
You list the 7 core functions of diplomacy here: political affairs, economic affairs, management affairs, consular affairs, public affairs, diplomatic security, and diplomatic technology. And you write pretty extensively and specifically about how AI can enhance each one of those things. The broader takeaway that I get from all of those things is that you see tremendous upside, and you don't approach this general idea in the kind of positive with a potential dark side way that a lot of people seem to really be thinking about AI today, Don. Is that, did I get the right vibe there from the way that you approach this?
Yeah, that's a very good observation. Thank you for pointing that out, Francis. I do have concerns, of course, like everybody does. I'm mostly optimistic at this point for the application of these technologies. I mean, as an avid sci-fi reader and watcher over the years, of course, I have my own concerns about the HAL 2000s out there that might use AI to subjugate humanity. But I don't think we're even close to that situation yet. Naturally, I do warn in the book. I've learned a lot from reading about AI. Some of the big thinkers, as I mentioned, Eric Schmidt, ex-CEO of Google, and some others. Reid Hoffman's got a great book out now. I'm learning a lot I like to read widely about sort of the dark side and the bright side of AI, because honestly, I think it's both. I think we need to be very cautious of the opportunities and the risks. And one of the reasons why I felt like when I wrote the book, that it comes from a place of wanting to help the reader to optimize and maximize the opportunities and avoid the pitfalls. So, I run through lots of vignettes that diplomats will certainly understand, that sort of mirror the sections of an embassy, and, how you could use artificial intelligence in your various portfolios. But I also have some careful caveats and express concerns about, what can go wrong with artificial intelligence, especially if we don't keep the human in the loop, as it's being referred to. And I think that's where diplomacy is thousands of years old as a profession. And I want readers to make these connections that not only will diplomats not be rendered obsolete, but I think that diplomats will become increasingly important in navigating a lot of these fissures and chasms and bridging, nation states' understanding of where each other are coming from on artificial intelligence as policy matters, but also in how we're applying them. And then ultimately, I without giving too much away, I try to conclude in the book that we really need to start. We need to roll up our sleeves and get to work on helping to kind of set the pace on syncing up human values, because ultimately, if it's true what people are saying about artificial intelligence becoming sort of too smart for our own good, then we better, as a species, I think, have our story straight.
You wrap this book up. One of the appendices at the end of the book is 100 AI use cases for diplomats, and I know you don't intend it to be completely exhaustive, but it is pretty comprehensive, and there are a lot of possibilities here for how diplomats can use artificial intelligence. How did you go about developing that set of 100 use cases, and how would you propose to somebody that's still in to maximize each of those, or as many of those as are applicable to their skill set as possible?
One of my goals with the book was not just to have it be like a field manual. I tried to write it as a field manual so that any diplomat of any State Department or foreign ministry, of any country that might be interested in more adopting AI tools for diplomatic work. I wanted them to be able to pick this book up and go, okay, I may not have the time or interest to read from front to back, but I see something that speaks to my portfolio and my particular area, whether it's public affairs or economic affairs or even diplomatic security, that I could just jump into that chapter, jump into that section, and I could, this would help me think through, what direction I should go in relative to where I'm at in my job, at an embassy, a consulate, or in a foreign ministry. But I also wanted students of foreign affairs, at universities and colleges, even high schools around the world, to take a look at this book if they're interested in the interface between international, relations and these new technologies, not just large language models, but as artificial intelligence gets more sophisticated, and starts with robotics and learning about the physical natural world, how can we better integrate AI policy and practice in international relations?
There's a section at the beginning of this book that you titled "Diplomacy and AI Need Each Other." Why did you think it was important to position this as a must-have and not a nice-to-have, Don?
I'm definitely in the camp of people who believe firmly that the genie's out of the bottle, the toothpaste is out of the tube. I don't think we can afford to bury our head in the sand on artificial intelligence. I think we have to embrace it. I think we have to figure it out. I believe that we have not only an opportunity, but a responsibility to advance the human in the loop, to advance the human values that we see as the common denominators, of the species globally. And I see a lot of signs and indications of this throughout the world in terms of key leaders. For example, Pope Leo, the new Pope, he's extending and developing what Pope Francis started with some of the pronouncements about, hey, we've got to protect and defend humanity in the face of, what could be and looks like it will be a tidal wave of challenges as these tools potentially, could spiral out of control, whether on their own or in the service of bad actors.
Don, congratulations on your book. I appreciate the chance to talk to you about it, and I hope you sell 1 million of them.
Well, thank you very much, Francis. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to interviewing you someday if you give me that opportunity. We have a lot in common.
I'm not sure that anybody would listen, but I'd be happy to do it. Thanks for the time today.
Thanks so much. Take care.
You can find a link to learn more about Don's book, AI Use Cases for Diplomats, and pre-order it on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. The book comes out August 28th. The Naval Research Laboratory is prototyping a hydrogen small unit power system in collaboration with the Marine Corps' Expeditionary Energy Office and industry partners. Captain Randy Cruz, U.S. Navy, the commander of the Naval Research Laboratory, is one of my guests on FedGov Today TV this week. You can watch the debut on ABC7 in Washington and on the FedGov Today YouTube channel at 10:30 Sunday morning. If you missed the debut, you can watch anytime at fedgovtoday.com and on YouTube. To make sure you don't miss the next FedGov Today podcast, follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your shows. And you can listen on demand for the next FedGov Today podcast, fedgovtoday.com. I'm Francis Rose. Thanks for listening.